Hello and welcome to GothicZen Experience. Today I'm really excited because we have got Susan Jane joining us. Okay, so this show is a little bit longer than usual, and I make absolutely no apologies about it because I could have had Suzanne talk for much longer and it would have been really interesting. So please enjoy what is an OBE NDE experience as well as some insights into intuitive practitioners. Well, thank you so much, Susan, for coming along and really, making me feel so special because we met virtually about 3 weeks ago. And I went on a bit of a holiday and I just could not wait to talk to you again because you're all about intuition. So two of the things that I can relate to, intuition and NDEs. So win-win. All right.
Thank you for having me on here. I think this is fantastic. I love talking about intuition, obviously. And when I can bring in my OBEs and NDEs into it, it really makes it gives people that understanding of why I've gone the way I've gone. That's for sure.
Yeah, and the way you've gone, and I understand that you actually help other people as well. Because your website, by the way, like it's like, whoa, hang on, she does this, what? But she does this too, and she does this, and like it's just. But yeah, I'm very excited actually to talk about the flower stuff because my wife's actually into flower essences and like she's into all that sort of stuff. But I know yours is more about art therapy and and really like therapy in the arts is a huge deal and I saw the smiling faces and the people on your website that look really accomplished, like they can accomplish something, which is a great feeling. But before we get to that, if you don't mind, could we start off with all right, so I understand you did have an NDE, all right, and for the viewers at home it might be triggering to some people depending on how much you reveal. However, could I get a glimpse of what your life was like before that happened? So what was your kind of ordinary world? Like, did you have a normal upbringing or how did that work?
Yes, yes, I did have a normal upbringing, if we can define what normal is. But as far as I was concerned, I was one of 8 kids. I was Look, I don't know if everybody feels that way, but we all sort of feel like we're a little bit different to the next person. I feel like I was different to my siblings. I was the odd one out. And yet I know my younger sister always said, "Oh, I'm the odd one out. I'm the black sheep of the family." So I do feel like we all do feel a little bit different, even in our own families. As far as that went, it was very normal. But I just wanted to say, Goran, there's two areas to what I'm going to talk about as well. Because the first section or the first area that we do have to put out a bit of a warning because it was a bit of a horrific sort of situation.
Yeah.
I had what they call an OBE, an out of body experience, and then 12 months to the day of that, I had what I call my NDE, my near death experience. So
Wow.
I just wanted to clarify that because it is a slightly different sort of
Yeah.
and I'll go into it, not into all the gory details, but I will go into the details of both the situations if we've got time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Did you say to the day?
Basically, it's the same week, a month later. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Yeah. So if you don't mind, could you, yeah, please tell us about that?
My upbringing was normal as far as I was concerned. I had booked to go on a holiday, so it was 2 states away. I lived in Melbourne at the time, and I was going to Queensland to have a holiday with my younger sister, the black sheep of the family, she called herself. And so I was 19 at the time. And anyway, this particular situation happened. We were there for nearly 10 days, nearly 2 weeks. We were there for 2 weeks, but we were at about the 10th day. And we were starting to look at, okay, we've got to start to pack up and go home. I think it was the 12th day, actually, pack up and go home. And we'd met a group of people when we went to the local pub, as you do, and started to sort of get friendly with some of them. So we'd meet them every afternoon after we'd do our daily whatever. this particular night, my younger sister went home. So she went back to unit, I should say, on her own. So she just walked whilst on home. And probably about an hour later, I thought, okay, I'm going to head back now anyway. So I'm walking down the main street and I go past a couple. It's a couple holding hands. I walked past them, knew they were behind me, kept on walking. I was going a little bit faster than them. And all of a sudden, I had a tap on the shoulder. And I've turned around thinking it was the couple. And I was actually punched, king hit, as they call it in Australia, punched, and I obviously hit the concrete.
Wow.
Must have been instantly knocked out because I don't remember any of that. All I remember in that sort of section was getting dragged into the back of a car by my hair. And that's when the realization was of what was happening was happening. So I'm in the back of the car. There was three of them, and they obviously went through, and I was at this particular stage, I was pack raped. But when this was happening, I remember thinking to myself, I can't stop what they're going to do to me, because I did try to fight back. Obviously, that created more bruising and more problems. So I stopped fighting back and I thought, I can't stop what they're going to do to me. I have to accept this situation. But I remember asking, not out loud verbally, but in my head really strongly, how can I stop them doing it to anyone else? And in an instant, I was outside the car looking in. Now, when I explain this, when I talk about this, I talk about her or she because it didn't feel like it was me. Looked like me, but didn't feel like me. When I was looking, and when you're out of your body, which is what I felt I was out of my body, you don't have an emotional attachment. Now, I always thought emotions came from our spiritual side. I don't believe they do. You don't have an emotional attachment to it. So I'm sitting there thinking, and I looked around. I remember looking around thinking, there's a problem here. Why isn't anybody helping her? And I looked around, and when I looked around, the whole environment was like, it wasn't a full moon, but it was like the color of a full moon at night. And you get that beautiful blue, dark blue hue.
Yeah.
And that's what it was like. It was like it was just this beautiful glow that was happening. And I know it wasn't a full moon, but there's this stunning glow. And you could see without seeing. So I'm thinking, no one's helping her. And I've looked at her, and I I could see the back of her head, the radiation, like the energy radiating out of the back of her head, where she was dragged into the car. I could see it like when you look at a stretch of road and you can see the heat coming off the road. You can see that energy coming off the road. That's what I could see coming out of her head, out of the back of her head. I looked a bit further and I could see blood coming down the side of her mouth, but I couldn't taste anything. There was no taste there. There was no feeling there. But you could see that coming down, and you could see the bruisings and the marks all leaving an energy coming out of them. So there's all this energy happening, and I was fascinated. I have to be honest. I was fascinated without realizing what was going on. So it was almost like you were watching a movie, and you were sort of going, well, "What's going to happen next?" So I'm watching what's going on, and there's no smell, there's no, there's no taste, there's nothing happening there, there's no feelings attached to it. And look, really, to be honest, I it could have only been seconds, I don't know, but it felt like a long time. And I'm watching what's going on and what's happening there, but it was like, oh, okay, that's happening. Then I got this intuitive message come through, and I call it an intuitive message because I have no other way of explaining it. It wasn't like a big booming voice of God or anything like that. It was just this knowing, this knowledge, this understanding that this is one way of stopping them, like from doing this to other people, which was my question when I first asked. And in an instant, I was back in the body. And as I've come back into the body, I could smell the cigarettes and the alcohol from the car. all the pain came back, everything came back, and it comes back in such a flooding experience. It's just overwhelming from feeling like you're in bliss to all of a sudden feeling like you're in hell. And naturally, I was in my own little hell there. And the message I got back, I thought, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. And so while they were doing what they were doing to me, I started to pray. Now, I'm not a religious person at all, not in the slightest. Right? I went to Sunday school. I think when I was in grade 2 or 3, for about 2 or 3 times. I started to recite, "Forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do." I said that, and it was like, okay. And I said it again, and I would say it verbally. I'd say it louder. So it was like, "Forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do." And it just empowered me. And I said it again and again, and they were not happy with me saying it. So a few more hits and punches later, but I kept on going. I just, no, forgive them, Lord, for they know what they do. And again, I'm not religious. Where is this coming from? Eventually, the hand came over the mouth, the other hand came around the throat, and basically I passed out. I came to in the gutter on the side of the road, thankfully dressed. And I didn't know where I was. I was like, again, I was on holiday, so I wasn't sure where I was. And eventually found my way back. I must have looked aside, but found my way back to the apartment. And when I was back in the apartment, my younger sister saw me and was just, you know, I think she was probably more in trauma than I was. So in the shower, I had this little nail scrubbing brush, and I was scrubbing my skin so much that my skin was bleeding. And she sort of came in and took it off me, and chunks of hair were coming out and everything else. So I went through all this experience. I never talked about it. I couldn't talk to people about it because all I could think of was this horrific experience. And I know the world goes through such painful things that I didn't want to share another painful thing. And that was where my thought patterns were going. It was like, I don't want to share this. I did obviously talk to my sister. I did talk to mum and dad. They tried to get me into counselling, but I counselling in those days, I mean, you just didn't do that unless you were really broken. And I didn't feel I was really broken. But I went through life, and as you do, but almost 12 months to the day, like I said, it was within that same week. So, 1 or 2 days around that same time, I was at work. Now, again, I didn't talk about this out of body experience because I had no idea what it was, not in the slightest. Like it just didn't make sense to me. And so I didn't hold on to it for very long. It was like, no, that was just, obviously that's what happens when you get attacked. This is the sort of thing you do. And so then I've arrived at work. It was, like I said, about 12 months to the day. I've arrived at work and I started feeling quite sick. And I worked in a bank. Started feeling quite sick. And they looked at me and went, "Oh, there's something wrong." And I went, "Yeah, I don't feel well." And I must have passed out because I remember they were trying to walk me up the stairs. And I remember the girl that was helping me, she said, "I can't hold her. I can't hold her. She weighs too much." And I was obviously passing out. Now, I remember I was laying down. Well, I don't remember, but this I remember I was laying down. Why I don't remember is apparently there was a banana lounge at the work at a bank, and I never knew that there was a banana lounge there. But they opened this banana lounge and they laid me on the banana lounge. So I don't physically remember that side of it, but I do remember laying there and people were looking over me. And I remember standing up. Well, what I thought, I stood up and they were still all looking down. And I sort of went, "Hey, I'm up here. Why are you looking down there?" And that was when, obviously, which I found out later, that was obviously when I was transitioning, when I was leaving the body. Now, again, I did not have any idea what was going on with me here. I didn't understand any of this until about 15 years later when I read about near-death experiences. And that's when I went, "Oh, that's what happened." Because there was, in this book that I read, there was about 5 or 6 different cases about near-death experiences. And there was little bits and pieces out of each of them that sort of came together in my experience. So the first part was, why aren't they looking at me? And then I remember being in this big area, like it wasn't even an area, like there was oblivion, there was nothing there, but it was sort of all smoky, like you would imagine clouds, sitting on clouds. I know that sounds a bit crazy, but that's what it sort of felt like when I first got there. And there was no tunnel. I didn't see any tunnels. I know a lot of people see tunnels, but and I couldn't see a path, but I knew I was on a path. Okay, I didn't see it, but I knew I was on it. So I was going down this path, and I watched all this sort of clouds, if you want to call it clouds, turn into like little sparkles, and they were reflecting. So it was almost like flying glitter. And then there was these dark areas within there. Now, remember, in those days, this was almost like, I reckon about 200 years ago, it feels like. But I was at 1920 at the time. It was like little mobile phones. Now, we never had we never had mobile phones in those days, so I called them little TV screens. But nowadays, you'd say like mobile phones. And I sort of went, "What's the dark bit?" And I looked closer at these little screens, and they were playing my memories. They were playing. It was videos, like they were playing videos of my life. And I went, "Oh, that's really fascinating." There was thousands of them all over the place, all in between the sparkles. But I was walking, and I knew I had to go forward. As I've gone forward, there's this, what I would describe as a wall. Now, you couldn't see it as a wall. It was like a shadow, if that makes sense, but I knew it was a wall, and there was an opening there, and that's where I was heading. As I've got closer, there was shadows, and there were light shadows. They're not, when I say shadow, it was like silhouettes, I should say, silhouettes. And they were people that I knew, but I didn't know them. I can't tell you who they were, but I knew them. They were people I knew. And they're poking their head around the corner of this wall saying, "Oh, she's not supposed to be here. She's not supposed to be here."
Oh, wow.
And it was real, like, what, the music and the color, and it's not music, but it's music, because that's all you can call it. I don't know it as anything else, but the sounds that were coming through were beautiful, so calming. And the colors, there was one particular color, and the closest you could call it is green, but it was like a fluorescent, bright, light green, a light as in a light, as in light, and not light and dark, but turning on a
Yeah.
light like that. Yeah, it was just so fascinating, and you did feel like you were going home. I was just heading home, but and these were my family, but none of my family had passed in that at that stage, so I knew they weren't my direct family, but they were home, they were family. But they're going, they were whispering. It was so funny, almost impish, like, she's not supposed to. She's going to get in trouble. She's not supposed to be here. And it was really quite exciting, you know. And I'm thinking, oh, I am here, so guess what? And then again, and I can't call it a booming voice, but it was that knowing. It was like, you're not meant to be here, and straight away I came. Yep. And at that particular time, as soon as they came back, the doctor had just given me an adrenaline shot to get everything going again.
Oh, wow.
So we had a doctor's surgery right beside the bank, and so they'd gone and got
Oh,
him.
wow. That was lucky. Like,
Yeah, yeah. So that was sort of that. They were the two experiences. And again, I didn't talk to anyone about. I didn't talk to anyone about it because I didn't know what was happening. I didn't understand it. And to me, it could have been a dream, it could have been nothing. It wasn't until I read the books that I went, oh, okay, that sort of happened to me. And that's when, and that was like 15 years later type thing. That's when it all sort of went, I went, oh, right, okay. That's now, what do I do with that information?
oh, I feel for you. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Um, if I can just go back to the first, so the OBE.
Yep.
Now, when you were in that situation, you said that you were there to make sure that that never happened again. Is that
Mm, yep.
so? Did they? I want to know. Did they get caught? Did something happen to them? Did they stop did you put them in their tracks to stop?
Okay, I again, officially, I can't tell you because
Oh, okay, yeah,
I
no
never
problem.
went to the police.
Yeah.
I was
Were
just
you satisfied with the result?
I honestly believe, and I have to put this down to my intuition,
Yeah,
3 out of the 3, 2 never did it again, were quite in remorse.
right.
The ringleader that did the punching, that did the most violent, whether he did it again, I don't know, but I don't believe I think he was incarcerated, so for some reason, I felt like he was taken away from the community.
Yeah. Well, thank you,
Um,
'cause that satisfies me in a way that, something happened to them, there was a result at the end of the horrible thing that happened to you, that something at least happened. And I think the viewers might feel a bit of comfort in that too. I hope they do.
I know this sounds strange, but I actually sort of feel for the 2 because I feel like that they were sort of roped into it, enjoyed the moment, if that's what you wanna call it, but I feel that they had to live with that guilt, and I don't think they had a very happy life because of it. They would have had to do a lot of work on themselves.
Alright.
Mm.
Now to me, that just shows how much of a strong person you are and your character for to even say something like that. And,
I don't feel like I
yeah,
was
I don't mean I didn't mean that to embarrass you or anything, but, like, that's a huge thing to say, like, come
Yeah.
on. So, okay, so you have your sorry, your OBE. Now, in that situation, did you get a sense that someone else was with you? How was it different energetically from the NDE, which you saw
Oh.
your family, but they weren't your family, but you had this connection there?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there was definitely it was very different. The OBE, the out of body experience, I knew I wasn't going anywhere. I did feel attached, whereas with the NDE, I didn't feel attached to anything physical, like anything of earth. I
Yeah,
felt attached and I felt like I was coming home. But the OBE, during the attack, it was like I didn't feel I could go anywhere. I was there. Even though I was watching it, I also feel because what really surprised me with the OBE is that there's no emotional attachment there, and yet I felt emotion with the NDE.
yeah,
'Cause I did, I felt excited, I felt really good, I felt really calm, everything was I had the feelings there. But with the NDE with the, with the attack, that's
yeah,
easier to explain.
yeah, yeah.
With the attack,
OBE, yeah.
I didn't have that emotional attachment there. I didn't have the feelings. I didn't have the responses there. But I also knew that I wasn't going anywhere.
Because you were very disconnected from that person that you were witnessing.
Yeah,
So you were the third person in a sense. So you're the observer. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas I guess with the NDE, you are the all and everything of that. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's that's all of you. Like even though a part of you is here, or, it's everywhere, but that's still you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, that is because yes, I did. I felt like that was me in the near death experience. I felt that was me. That was all I was. That was everything. Whereas in the attack, I didn't. I felt disconnected.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I have this other theory too. Where you hear about people that have experienced childhood traumas
Yeah.
and they don't remember them until maybe they've done a meditation or they start to get that memory back. I believe that, that because we don't have that emotional attachment, that we can forget about that negative side of it. We can, especially a child. I mean, I was 19 at the time, so I don't forget it. But as a child, that could be a form of protection. Leave the body, let that happen. I'm not attached to it, and then
Mm,
come back in when it's finished.
I like that.
Yeah, that's just one of my theories.
So, yeah, and clearly like with your line of work now, we'll get to that in a sec. So, after all this experience, did it change you in any way? Did something within you shift? Did you have a new life's purpose or anything like that, or is it just kind of just going through life, going through the motions, and then one day it might sneak up on you that, hey, maybe I should take this path or whatever. How did that work for you?
Well, I have to be honest. Did do the old "woe is me" after the attack. You know, you did go through the old victim mentality and all the rest of it. So I did a little bit of wallowing in self pity. I have to put my hand up and not, take that on board. I didn't have any major life changes. Nothing like that. Nothing really happened in that context that I could think of after the near death experience. Like I've had this experience. I've had to have adrenaline to bring me back. And then the bank allowed me to drive home. And you sort of go, you wouldn't do that nowadays, but that's sort of what happened. I I that affected me a little bit. I was a bit sick with that. So I had a week off work with that. But no big, probably the only thing there was that I didn't really want to be in that role. I wanted to do something different. One of the things I've always wanted to do is help people, but I didn't know what that meant. It wasn't until really my big aha moment was when I read about it, other people's experience. That's when I went, "Oh, what has happened to me, I can start to talk about because I could look at it in a different way. I could see the silver lining in all that negativity." And as soon as I could get that understanding, that was my aha moment.
From there, is that when you started to get into like the art therapy stuff, or is that?
Oh, no, that was a bit later. So when I first started doing, so I was in I was in a 20-year emotionally abusive relationship. So, that's what happens when you're married to a narcissist. You sort of experience some of that crap.
All right, people don't know this about me, but I was actually in one of those too with a female. So
Yes.
it
Yeah, there's
happened
not just
in both.
men.
Yeah.
Yeah, my partner now, he was in the same too, in a similar situation. So, it was being in that relationship, and in those days, I didn't want to just leave a relationship. I had read enough and got enough understanding to know that if I did not change my way of thinking, my attitude, my beliefs, and my understandings while I was in that relationship, because that relationship was there for a reason, if I didn't get that understanding, all I'm going to do is leave that one and go to the same.
Mm,
I needed to change the way I was thinking. And so that's when I started doing a lot of the spiritual work. Now,
right.
yes, it was spiritual work. It was a lot of self-development, a lot of self-development. And so because I didn't have any money, I was not allowed to have any money. I had to used to ask for $2 so I could take the kids to play group.
Yeah.
So, this was the control. I remember one time I packed a car up, he'd gone, I'd packed the car up, put the kids in it, put everything in it, and I sort of went, we're out of here. This is not the life I want for you, for my three kids, and for me. And I started to reverse out the driveway, and I remember seeing my daughter's little bike on the veranda, and I thought to myself, I'm leaving with my three kids and what I can fit in the car, and leaving everything, their world, my world, everything for him. And I'm thinking, is that fair? Is that the right thing to do? And that's when I went, no, I've got to go back in and I've got to sort out my life and leave for the right reasons if I'm going to leave. That was my attitude there. So I remember doing that. And it wasn't easy. I'd go once a week, we'd go shopping. I'd go to the local library and I'd get like 10 books out at the time and I started reading. Now nowadays we've got podcasts, we've got lots of other ways of getting that information. In fact, probably now you've got that much information, it's hard to discern what is right and what is not right. And I go back to that with trusting your intuition. If it feels good, okay. If it doesn't feel so good, maybe look at it a bit more. But
Yeah.
one of the things I've always said, take on board whatever I say, take on board what you want, let go of the rest. Don't take on stuff that is not you. So that's when I started doing all my research. So I would get self-development books. I'd get money development books because I had no money. So I had to learn how to make money or how to live and that sort of side to it. Lots of spiritual books, lots of books like that and I would go through them. The New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, I liked his one, but didn't like his second one. I'd only take out bits and pieces um, that resonated with me. You know, just because somebody well known like Oprah or something says something, it doesn't mean it's 100% you. But there's good bits and pieces in it, and you take those and you use those and you grow with those.
Is part of that equation self-love? Like, when you, I don't know, it's like I know when I was in that one particular relationship that was brutal, absolutely brutal. But that was a time when I really didn't love myself. Like, I don't know, you know how, I don't know, some people are really good at manipulating you when you're down, especially,
Yeah.
and then they must recognize that energy. And then, you try and get out of that relationship, and then they come back, they reel you in again, and then they
Mm,
push you out, and they reel you. And
yeah.
I just, I didn't know who I was anymore. I was just a shell of a person. I was just defeated. So
Mm.
part of that, I guess, was I had to learn to love myself, even though I still don't even understand what that means. But is part of that journey really important to love ourselves?
Look, absolutely. And look, and the thing is, I guess it's the terminology you're using. So that was one of the books I read is all about. You've got to love yourself, and it. The terminology didn't resonate with me. To love
Mm.
myself doesn't resonate with me because I know I can love others so much better than loving myself.
Yes.
Loving myself when you're in a relationship like that is classed as being selfish, and that's why you stop doing that. So I went past the love myself and I went trust myself. And when I went trust myself, that empowered me. And that gave me the understanding of, all right, trust how I'm feeling, trust that it doesn't feel right. Because if I act on it when it doesn't feel right, I'm really disservicing myself. If I'm disservicing myself, I am not loving myself. So even though that's the crux of it, the terminology didn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
So now I can sit there and go, I just still don't say it. Oh no, I love myself and I'm going to do that because it's like that's a
Feels a
really
bit weird.
really
It feels a bit weird saying that. Like I was always
yep.
like, oh,
Yeah, it doesn't feel right. And I was explaining to you, I was talking to a lady just recently, and she wanted me to go into this business with her and everything else. Now, all the signs were coming through to me that it's not where I want to go. Now, I could still go there and still do it with her, but I've got to trust that that wasn't feeling right. But I'm not going to turn around and say, I didn't turn around and say, no, I've got to love myself, so I can't do that. I had to say to her, so it resonated with me, it doesn't feel right for me to do this, and I've got to trust that feeling. So same, but different.
yeah, yeah. And it's a good point that you made too before. There's so much stuff out there. Like there's mass information about everything, and it's like everyone's an expert at everything. Like,
Mm.
but it comes back to, well, hang on a minute, what do you think? And that's the hardest thing. Put the book down. What do you think?
Yes.
And that's why I love the line of work that you do, because it comes back to that intuition. And unfortunately, it's been hijacked by these experts, really, on social media or whatever, who steer people in, maybe a direction of fear, maybe
Yes.
a direction of, I don't know, whatever, likes on their channel, whatever it is. Maybe just to stoke their own egos. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, or political reasons. It could be anything. And yeah, coming back to that intuition thing is so important.
The terminology is bantered around a lot, and that's that's sort of where I go. You know, we've got intuitive websites now, and we've got intuitive this, and we've got intuitive that, and I get where they're coming from, and it explains it, but it is bantered around. I want to just quickly explain to you what I feel intuition is. Now,
Please do.
again,
Yeah.
yeah, again, I go, if it doesn't resonate with you, fine. It does not worry me at all. But this is how I explain it. And I explain it this way. wholly and solely because of the near-death experience and the OBE I had. Okay? That's how I've come to intuition. Because we all know, and I know now, that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience, right? Spirit has to come into the body to be able to experience what it's about with the physical side, because spirit does not have the sense of taste, does not have the emotions, it does not have that side of it when it's on its own. So when I go through that, I start to go, well, okay, we've got the spiritual side of us and we've got the physical side of us. We've got all these chakras. What the hell are those things for? Like they're energy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Chakras are
yeah.
flowing energy in, but they also flow energy out. Why are chakras flowing energy in and flowing energy out? And it's like, oh, hang on. Is that the environment out there, because spirit doesn't see like we see, spirit knows, it doesn't see, it doesn't do it knows. This information, the energy is actually coming through our chakras and then touching or hitting onto the spirit. But the spirit needs to also talk to the physical body. So the spirit sends these intuitive messages to the physical body. So what I see intuition is that communication between the spiritual side and the physical side, and the physical side and the spiritual side. It's communication.
Yeah. So does that communication work because of emotions? Is it an emotional thing that you like recognize intuition, or is it, I don't know, or do you just trust? Like, how does
Okay, and
I go over here and then I go over here? Sorry.
I'm right. I'm leading you right up my alley where I want you to
Oh, cool.
go. So feelings from the spirit, emotions, energy in motion is from the physical side. So when the spirit is feeling down and maybe blue or down or maybe even depressed, but depressed is an emotion, but not a feeling. And what can happen is if your spirit, if you're doing something that your spirit doesn't want to do, or you're behaving in a way that they don't want it to do, or you're not on your purpose, your life purpose, where you're going, where you need to go. When you sort of wake up in the morning, you sort of go, I don't feel right. The feeling is from the spirit. The emotion is how we respond and how we react to it. That's the energy emotion. You could be feeling down or you could be feeling sad, and you could put it out, express it as anger or rage or annoyance or rah, rah, rah. But you're actually feeling sad.
Hmm.
So the spirit has the feeling and the physical body does the emotion. It actually responds to it. And so it sends that energy out. So we don't always see when we're with somebody, we may see them as, oh, they look a little bit sad or they look a little bit down or they're really, really angry, but we're not necessarily seeing the true feeling. Okay, so the true feeling could be sad and they're displaying sad, that's fine, that's the true feeling. The feeling could be sad and they could be displaying rage or anger, you know. They could be feeling unloved. Like you hear of cases with, say, multiple murderers, they may have experienced this unlove or neglect or that sort of aspect of it, and that's the feeling they've got, but they're expressing it in a completely different way.
And that's where that observer aspect comes from, I guess. Like you're looking on, you're not judging as such, I guess,
Yeah,
but you're just seeing it for what it is, and
yeah,
which is hard to process when we're here and we're feeling every little negative vibe that's out there.
yep,
Uh,
yep.
but yeah, I totally. You explained that so well, and I really appreciate the way that you've explained that, because I'm going to watch this again, and I'm going to watch it again, and I'm going to watch it again, and it's going to get in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really did hit the sweet spot with me. So I get that.
And that gives you an understanding too of how I do help people.
Yeah, and
Because
I guess that's an intuitive part of it as well. So even the way that you explain that to me, you're probably going, "Oh no, this guy's a little bit slow. I'll explain it in such a way that he understands it."
it's a concept that's a little bit out there, so you have to explain it. So people get it. And one of the things that I've done with all the readings and all the learnings I've done, if something doesn't make sense to me, it's not going to sit. And it has to make physical sense. So we can go with all the woo-woo. You can tell me, like you can tell me that we have two bodies, like a physical body and a spiritual body. I've read it. I read it all. It's like it didn't mean anything until I had read that near-death experience. I took myself back, went back to that situation, and then I went, oh gosh, now I get it.
Wow.
That's usually where I do a swear word there usually.
Yeah.
But oh gosh, now I get it.
That's okay. That's okay. Whatever flies is whatever flies. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it does. When you understand that sort of thing, you understand you're not feeling right. You understand that somebody said something to you. You're in a relationship and somebody's saying something to you, and it does not feel right. You might not know how it's supposed to feel. You might not know why it doesn't feel right, and that's fine. But just knowing and acknowledging it doesn't feel right, and we're using that terminology feel because it's coming from the spirit. You're not saying it doesn't emotion right. You're saying it doesn't feel right.
Yeah. And are there clues to in other ways? Like, for example, could you get physical symptoms of something that doesn't feel right, which in turn maybe helps you into intuition kind of kick in?
Absolutely. Okay, there's 4 ways we can get it: physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. Okay, so we've got 4 ways of getting it. I've got this lovely little free quiz on my website, and you can do the free quiz and find out what is your strongest intuitive nature, because we're all intuitive. It's part of human nature. It's our intuitive nature. Okay?
I'll make sure that all your details are in the link below, so please check it out.
Yeah. So it's
Freebies as well. There you go.
It's fun. It's just a little fun one. It gives you an understanding of what your preferences are and where you go with that. So when we look at the physical side of information that you get, when somebody needed to have a healing, when I was doing a lot of healings, my palms would go all blotchy. And I remember people saying to me, "What's wrong with your hands?" And I go, "I don't know, they just go blotchy." I've noticed then when I'd have somebody come in and they'd booked for a healing, my hands would be blotchy. And as soon as I was near them, they'd be all blotchy. As soon as I started doing the work on them, the blotch went away.
Wow.
That was a physical sign. You know, when you get butterflies in your stomach, that's
Yeah.
a physical sign.
Like
They're all,
palpitations. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, they're all physical signs. You'll get different physical signs. Another one is when you see things. I call them physical signs too. So I remember we were driving down the main one of the big roads here on the Gold Coast, and of all places, I moved back to the Gold Coast where I had the attack. Like, don't get it.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I know. Don't, yeah, that's a different story. We're driving down the highway, and had my partner in the car. He was driving, and we'd been discussing something. I can't remember what it was we were discussing, but been discussing something. We were going down the road. He goes, "Oh my goodness, did you see that billboard? That billboard had exactly what we were talking about on it." And I went, "No, I didn't see it." Okay, no worries. And we talked a little bit more, kept on going. And then I went, "Oh, did you hear that? The guy on the radio was talking about it too." And he goes, "Oh, no, I didn't hear that." Now, we're in the same car. I didn't see a dirty, great big billboard, and he didn't hear what they were saying. So we pick up that intuitive messages the way we find that are stronger for us. So when we get it emotionally, it's those feelings. When we get it mentally is one of the hardest ones because it comes straight through as a thought pattern, as a knowing, and you sort of go, I remember talking to somebody when I decided to leave where I was. I put a manager in my clinic. I put renters in my home, and I left my kids. Well, my kids were older then, and they were living with their partners, and moved down to the Gold Coast to study. I went back to uni at 48. Now, I remember doing that, and I was talking to my girlfriend about it, and I said to her, "This is what I'm going to do." And she goes, "Well, how do you know you're going to get into uni?" And I said, "Well, if I don't get into uni, it doesn't matter. I'll just do something else. Something else will turn up." And then I looked at her and I went, "I don't know where those words came from," because it just flowed out of me. It was like, you can't put barriers up. I'm just going to do that. That's when it comes in mentally. It's like it just comes through and you don't realize. So we're getting this information all the time. Channeling, you'll get it that way too. But mentally it can be hard because you might get the message and then rethink it.
Yeah.
We're getting those intuitive messages because they're coming from direct source. We get those intuitive messages and then we go, well, we rethink it. And we go, oh yeah, but if I did
So
that,
so it's like overthinking.
overthinking it. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And when we get it spiritually, we get it like you'll get it through dreams and different things like that.
Is it harder to follow those intuitional paths when you're with someone? Like, I guess it would be like if you're in a relationship, for example, that it's hard to like, as you know, we know what that's like. It's
Yeah,
hard to break those barriers. I'm lucky I'm not in that situation now, but I was before where I wish I would have done stuff like years ago, but that relationship had squashed a lot of my, it was such a barrier. But how do you push through that? If you love being with someone, but you still want to do what you want to do.
exactly. And it's really challenging. And there's no one one method suits all in that one. Apart from you've got to start trusting your gut. You really have to trust your intuition. And that is the only way you're going to get through it. And what happens is when I was in the situation that you're talking about, like I was not in a happy relationship, and people would just say to me, "Well, just leave, just leave. All you have to do is leave." I couldn't leave. You hear about these battered wife syndrome. You hear about these women that and men that get beat up all the time, and yet they keep going back to the relationship.
Yeah.
It's because they aren't ready to leave. You weren't ready to leave that relationship until either you got kicked out of the nest or it got that bad that you had to for your own safety. Okay. And even in those situations, when women are in those sort of situations too, when they leave, it can actually put them in more danger. So it's not a simple understanding on it. It is hard, and especially in those physical relationships. Mine was more of an emotional abusive relationship. It there was physical there, but not a lot, not like you see some of the other ones. But mine was very emotional, and when it's emotional, it just attacks you on all levels. You just feel lower than a pregnant ant. And honestly, you just don't know where to go, don't know what to do. You don't have any confidence. You don't have an understanding of what to do. It's devastating. It's quite devastating and very, very brutal. I remember at the end of my relationship, I remember thinking to myself, I wish he would hit me so people could see the bruises because I am so bruised. I was so battered and bruised without being hit
Yeah.
because it was so emotional and it hit me in every single way. But we're there for a reason. What's that reason? What's that learning? How do I move forward? And there's so much help out there nowadays for you to be able to go forward. Even if it's listening to a podcast, even if it's reading somebody else's thing, getting an understanding. But whatever you do, don't go from the what is it? The iron frying pan to the fire. Get an understanding of what's going on. Get an understanding of why that feels bad. Get an understanding of who you are. Trust those feelings. You don't have to act on them. You don't have to do anything with them. Start to trust them.
Yeah.
That's the first step.
Yeah, and I guess that's what you do. You're an educational source. So,
Yeah.
people need to, if you want to get out of something, if you want to learn a craft, you educate yourself,
Yes.
right? And there's going to be a million different experts on the subject, but one that resonates with you, or one that resonates with your end goal, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, so, with those people that just say, oh, they've experienced life, they've went through all the trauma and whatever. Is this something to appreciate? Is trauma something to appreciate? Can it be appreciated? Or is it something that you just have to hold on to in a negative form?
No, no. We've had the trauma for a reason. Do you appreciate it? Well, I wouldn't appreciate it. I certainly didn't appreciate the
Probably
attack.
the wrong choice of words, I'm
I
sorry.
know, I know it, but I do know what you mean. I
Yeah.
do appreciate the learning I got from it. Okay. I do appreciate the learning. Now, one of the things that they look at is to go from depression to joy is is a huge step. Like it is, it you can't do it. Honestly, you can't do it. You cannot go from depression to joy. It is too hard. But you can go from depression to hope. You know, you can we can take these steps as we go. So somebody being in a relationship like that, they're not going to be able to trust their intuition straight up, but they're going to be able to start to get those messages. They're going to get to the stage where you start to believe in those things. The areas of the trauma that you're experiencing and you're going through, you're not going to be able to say, oh, there's a nice, bright, shiny, silver lining on it. But after a while, you start to get a learning from it, and then you can see when we see a shining, a silver lining, it's still got all the shitty crap inside. It's still got the trauma, but what we're focusing on is the positives to it.
Yeah.
I learned when I was going through that. You know what I learned? I learned this, and if that's all I'm going to learn from it, so be it. I'm going to hold on to that. I'm going to run with it because that is what I needed to learn. And you look at where you are now, Goran, too. You've gone from a really crappy relationship to a really lovely one.
Yeah.
Now, it might not be the perfect relationship, but it's certainly a big step up from where you were.
Oh, it's perfect. Okay.
She's listening, sorry.
It's perfect. Thank you.
And then that's the other aspect. You'll learn how to deal with that. One of the first things I did when I went with my partner, and I've been with him now 13, 14 years. When I was with him, it was like I learned to say something. And that was really challenging. I learned to say, I don't like that. I learned to say, I do like that. I didn't have those choices before. I think I did have them, but I didn't use those choices.
Yeah, right. And that's empowering when you can actually be honest,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
And that your word, that empowering, that is me, that's how I like to work with people. So when I'm talking to somebody, I like to give them understanding, but I like them to come up with the answers. I like them to come up with what suits them. I could turn around and go, oh, try thinking about lovely red roses. No, you think about what you need to think about and let's grow with that. Let's go with that.
yeah, okay. So that's interesting. So yeah, because when people hypnotize people, I've heard, I don't know, like I don't do this sort of stuff, but like a hypnotist or whoever, they can't hypnotize anyone. It's actually you do it to yourself. So I guess that's the kind of thing. So there are people that would lead people to think of stuff, and there are people that encourage people to do stuff.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you and your services and what you do. We're at that point now. And by the way, before we continue, I just want to say this. When you were talking before and you were talking about light and stuff, and I'm gonna watch this again just so you know, but the light that came through and hit you and the wall behind you just lit up. You were actually glowing. No, I'm serious. And like it's just I'm like, whoa. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to edit, like I'm not going to add stuff to this, all right? But we'll see what transpires there.
Yeah, yeah.
So well done. What is all that about? What is your work about?
Okay, so what happened? I've told you that I decided to go to uni. I did a 3-year university degree. After the 3 years, it was in the public health system. After 6 months after I finished the course, and I finished with honours, like I did really well. 6 months after they finished, the government changed hands here, and they wiped out all the jobs that I just spent 3 years studying for.
No.
They all went from the public system into the private system. So I'm going for interviews and stuff, and everyone's beating me. And I'm thinking, hey, I did the top of the class, and this is a new area. Why is there no jobs available? And that was the reason. I didn't know that until 6 months after I finished the degree. So I had just spent $30,000 on this degree and had nothing. Unless I moved states, I couldn't use it. And I thought I need to utilize it for a better reason. So I wanted to actually put what I'd learned into place in some way, shape, or form. And I got the idea of writing a book. I've always wanted to write a book. So I wrote this book. And the book was called Intuitive Flowers, or is called Intuitive Flowers, Empowering Your Emotional Goals. So it's all about your emotional goals. And I got a lot of downloads because I've been doing a lot of spiritual work. So I got a lot of downloads and I got a lot of understanding on how to do it and how to put it together, bringing live flower readings into the 21st century where we can do them online, we can take pictures, we can do artwork, and we do readings on the flowers. So I got my book and I got it published and it was god awful. It was absolutely
Oh, really?
disgusting. it was it was like a I just come out of uni. It was like a textbook. You
Mm.
do this and you do this and you do this and you do. Anyway, so I went to a friend of mine decided to edit it. She is an editor, so she edited it. So I brought the second edition out, which was a lot nicer to read, a lot easier to flow. However, the first book was the perfect online course.
Ah,
Because it was so detailed. It had everything in it, everything you need. So I created online courses for that with on how to do flower readings or flowermancy it's called. Now, why flower readings? I wanted people to connect with their intuition through their feelings, get an understanding of where their goal is, what they want to do. So I say to somebody, like I say to you, Goran, with your podcast, you want that to be a success. So when you look at your podcast and when you go, oh, this is a success. Now, success can be really big, really small, doesn't matter as long as you're feeling it. How does success feel for you? And you start to get the feeling. So you connect with your intuition and you go, oh, it feels like this, or feels really good. Lots of downloads. I feel like I'm helping people. The information that's coming back to me it's really good. I'm really liking this. It feels successful. And then I go, well, okay, does that have a color? And you will say, yes, it's this color. Goran, say a color.
golden orange.
Golden orange. Then I would type in golden orange flowers. And then, because you've got that feeling, you're going to scroll through the billions of flowers. You'll find it pretty quickly, though. And you'll choose some of those images that resonate with you. Again, going back to what resonates with you, empowering the person to choose. They may pick 4 or 5 flowers. Then I go to them, okay, let's have a look. I open them up in tabs. Let's have a look which one really resonates with you. And we bring it down to one flower image. And then we start doing the reading on the flower image. So I do the readings for them.
Oh, okay. So in regards to the reading, what does that actually mean?
Your intuition's picked it, right? And this is how we're going to achieve your goal. Your intuition has seen that image. It
Yeah.
resonates with you. So they're happy with that image. Then we start to look at the image. We look at the format. The format of the image, whether it's a portrait image or whether it's a landscape image,
Oh,
what motivates you to go forward. We look at the stem. That's your path or journey to get to your goal. We look at, if it was a business goal, the petals are your marketing. If it's not a business goal, if it's more of a relationship goal, your petals are about attraction. Like attracts like. What are we doing there? And so we go through it, and I keep going back to the person saying, your intuition's picked this. This is what it sees. This is your leaves are your guides. Look out for this guide, this particular guide here. There's one here. Look out for spirit guides. Look out for physical guides.
mm,
And you get a path on how to achieve your goal. Your intuition actually shows you the steps to take to achieve your goal.
okay. And so when you get these steps to achieve your goal, is it okay to change your path along the way?
100%. Because
Yeah.
you might go, hang on, that's not really where I want to focus now. How many times do we change our ideas or our goals?
Yeah.
And now I'm going to have cereal for breakfast. And oh no, actually, I feel like porridge. How many times do we change our goals? You change
Yeah.
them. You pick as many bloody flowers as you like. That's the
Yeah.
best part.
Well, I love hearing that because I think I'm a bit harsh on myself when my goals change. So I taught screenwriting at a film school, and then I was like, you know what? Yeah,
Hey, I paid $30,000 to do a course
yeah,
I
that,
never got anywhere with.
yeah, but it's helped you now.
Exactly. And so
Yeah,
the
and
screenwriting will help you.
so there is hope. There's always hope, isn't there?
I also look at it too. One of the things that when I look back on my life and I sort of go, well, I played in a band and I've done this and I've done, at the age of 18, I owned my own dance school.
Oh
You know,
wow!
lived on an organic crop farm for 8 years, you know, and I lived off the farm, almost off grid, but not quite. You know, so I've done a lot, and I sort of think to myself, "Well, what is all that for?" All of them have got different learning, different areas, different understandings of how I'm going through with my life. I needed to do all of that to get to where I am now. And I'm going to need to do a lot more to get to where I'm going. So
Yeah, yeah,
all of them are beautiful experiences that we have.
yeah. And with your students, do they come from all different backgrounds? Like, what is your clientele normally for, like, say, the art classes, for example, and their intuitive readings and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So the art classes. So I do intuitive art readings. So they're the same sort of thing. So but we just do that live. I bring everybody
Yeah.
together, and then they paint their flower. They paint their goal basically. But
Oh,
having
okay.
these flowers, if I said to you, if you had a money goal, you know, you want finance, and I said to you, paint your goal, you
Yeah,
could probably paint a block of gold bars, you know, and it becomes like, eh.
yeah,
If I say to you, "Okay, you've got a financial goal, paint it as a flower." You've got you've gotta go with your intuition.
yeah,
You've
yeah,
gotta go with what you physically I have one lady, I have to explain it if I've got time. I had
yeah. Of
one lady
course.
come in, and she was doing a relationship goal, right? And so, you know, I do like a little mini meditation and visualization on your goal. And then she goes, "What I saw was this beautiful big pink hibiscus." You know, it was just so stunning. What she drew was this big yellow daisy. It was like a round center and these big round petals. Like, you can't get much simpler than that, okay? It's so simple. And she sort of looked at it and went, "Look, it just doesn't mean anything. Like, that's all I could draw." And I went, "Oh, okay." So I started going through it. Now, again, the petals are of attraction, and she had 5 very similar sized petals. I said to her, "Okay, attraction, like attracts like. What are the 5 main areas you're looking at for a relationship? What are 5 main areas that are so important to you? And they're deal breakers if you don't get them, okay?" And then I walked away. I left her to it. And she wrote on hers, and she wrote one of the things was honesty. She wanted someone who was honest. And we'd been talking about some other stuff. I can't remember what it was. And I said to her, "Okay, so when you've got these 5 areas, you need to now put that out there to achieve that back. Yeah? Like attracts like." I said, "Are you being honest?" She goes, "Yes, I'm honest." And I said, "Well, what about this?" And she had said something. And what it was like somebody had asked her something, and she sort of went, "Oh, yeah, yeah, no, that's really nice." And it wasn't. She didn't like it. And I said, "You're not being honest. How can you expect honesty back if you're not being honest going forward?" I said, "So it's all about you being you and what you need to do, and you need to put that out so you bring it back." That was her aha moment.
Yeah, right. And there is a vulnerability with that too, isn't there? So maybe that's what holds a lot of people back, that being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So you obviously work with a lot of vulnerable people as well, I assume.
Yeah, yeah, that's the main thing. They may be going through a lot of things. They could be going through empty nest syndrome. You know, like the kids have all left home and they don't know where they're going. A lot of people that I work with are people that basically they've lost their direction. They don't know their direction, and that's who I tend to work with. Um,
Right.
I probably tend to work more with women because I can relate to women better. It doesn't mean I don't work with men because I do get men.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of the things, it's just they might want a reading, and it's just being able to empower them when they see the picture that they've chosen, and they don't see anything in it. It's just a flower. I like it, but when they start to see the detail in it, it just you can see their heads that, I had 2 young girls come in the other week. I did a reading for them, separate readings, but they were in year 12, their last year of school, and they didn't know what to do. And their readings was 2 different flowers, obviously, 2 different very different readings, but it empowered them to go, "All right, that's what I wanna do." I didn't tell them what to do because I can't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I just said, You probably need to have a break, or you need to do this, or have a look at that, or are you really connecting with this? There's somebody out there that's going to help you. Look out for a physical person of a masculine nature. It doesn't have to be a man, but they're going to give you that information in a masculine way. So it's going to be really direct, really on point. You're going to be able to action it. So that's what's going to give you the strength to go forward.
So
So
there could be, I guess, a parent figure as well. Like, I guess,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. So if they're stuck, if they're a bit, because I can do a reading for you, but what I really want to do is empower you to
Mm.
trust yourself to go forward.
There's just so much stuff out there, and I think it's harder and harder for people to come back to themselves,
Yes.
and I
Yep.
think that's why this kind of work is so important. I mean, yeah, like I have my opinions about stuff too, and I'm the same in regards to like it's up to everyone to decide what they want to do,
Yeah.
you know. Take a little bit of what's good or what resonates with you and test it maybe or do whatever. If it doesn't, then turn the channel. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not the end of the world.
I think
I'm a huge theory tester, absolutely huge. All those books that I read, I had to test the theory. One
yeah,
theory I tested was visualization, and $85,000 it took me 6 months to get $85,000 worth of
wow.
renovations done to my house.
Well, that's a good effort. Congratulations. Yeah. Well, that's it. So it can tie in with, you know, what you want. Like I want to live out into this in the snowfields. I
Yep.
can't see it at the moment, but it's, I think you said it earlier, like, oh, if you imagine wealth or whatever, and you imagine these gold bars, I don't see that.
No.
I see something that I enjoy nature in, like, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, I've got these physical goals too. I've actually got really bad tinnitus. Like I've had it for three years, and I've got concentration problems now as well. Like it's getting bad with eustachian tube or whatever it's called. Anyway,
Yep.
but what I found was when I went on, because I went to the skiing holiday basically, but when I was in the mountains, it disappeared. You know,
Yep.
so what's the universe trying to tell me? But as soon as I came back here, it's like 3 times as bad. You know.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, got to follow intuition, and it is difficult, isn't it, to follow your path sometimes that you want, but
One step at a time, Goran.
uh,
One step at a time.
maybe I'm impatient. I don't know.
You start putting it out there. I'm going to be living in the snow. I'm going to be living in my chalet wherever I want it to be. I don't know when. I'm not sure yet, but I'm definitely going there. That's what I'm doing, and everything's focused on that. So I'm going to set up my business focused on being able to do it there. I am going to learn a new skill focused on being there. So you're not there, but everything's focused towards that way,
Yeah,
and that's how you start to all of a sudden it'll be there and you'll go, shit, how did I get here?
yeah. Or gee, that was easy.
When
That'd
I
be
was
nice
when
to.
I was trying to go to uni, I remember thinking to myself, people sort of say, wait till all the ducks line up. And I sort of, no, sometimes you've got to make the ducks line up. But I really remember it was like the ducks just lined up by themselves. It was like I got to the stage where I went, I have to go to uni. There was no choice.
Yeah,
Everything worked out so well. Yeah, there was challenges along the way when I got there, but I had to take that path. I had to take that journey. It got to the stage where there was almost no choice. It was
yeah.
really perfect.
This information is so valuable to so many people, and I think especially in this day and age, like everyone's looking at different therapies and this and that, and even look, if you've got a medical condition, obviously see a doctor or whatever. But I think there are sometimes you could have better choices than that as well. You know,
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. You go to the doctor, you do the doctor, but you also go and then you look at alternate therapies as well, and you look at mindset techniques, you look at meditation, look at healing yourself. There's no reason why you can't get in there, and you can do this, Goran, too. Get in there, start doing some meditation, get into find what's going on in your ear and
yeah,
start to work on it. Now, I know you're going to think this is a bit crazy, but you start to get your imagination working on it and you start to go, okay, this is what I think it is. Let's if that's what I think it is. Say you think it's the crystals that get in your ear. You know how you can get those crystals in
yeah,
your ear.
yeah.
How would I get rid of them? And I go, oh, I'd have these little mini minder people, and they'd come in and they'd chip away at these crystals, and then they'd take them down there, and then they'd make them into jewelry, and then they'd sell them out of my ear. So I'm using my imagination, but as I'm doing it, you're actually channeling the energy to the right spot. And
Yeah.
you're actually channeling it there. If you feel like you've got broken hairs in there, go in there and start to mend them. How would you mend them? How would you? This is how I empower people. I make them think about it, because when they're thinking about it and they're creating this imaginary things, and imagination comes from spirit, because we're not thinking it, we're imagining it. Imagination comes from spirit, and spirit's been all over the place. It's been in the future and it's been in the past. It knows. You're imagining that it's going into your ear, it's going in and doing those sort of things. It might be something else. You sit there and go, hang on, no, there's something else. There's something on the back here in my brain that needs linking. I don't know what it is, but it needs linking. Let's link it. And in my head, it's like, oh, it's like a PowerPoint, and we plug it together. In your head, it might be like pipes that we need to tape up. But you
Yeah.
do everything, and then you go, is that working? No, there's something. Oh, I left it the end on the pipe. Open it up, take the end off. You allow your imagination to go wild. Let it do whatever it needs to do. And all the time, you are sending positive energy to it.
Oh, I love the creativeness of that. I'm all about being creative. Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife, she's into, and she's helped me along the way. Like she's helped me a lot too because she's into natural therapies and she does human design as well. I don't know if you know
Mm,
anything about
mm.
human design. So she's
Yeah,
big in that and she does stuff. But yeah, my channel is that creative channel. So I can kind of I resonate with that as well, like that, especially the creative aspect of that. Like, yeah, I like that. So yeah, I can easily imagine this scenario of little people in there doing their little work, and yeah,
yeah, you got to try, because look, there's, as you say, it's human design. There's bone therapy. There's all these different therapies. There's stuff out there. It's horses for courses. I keep saying horses for courses, because it may work on someone and it may not work on you. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It's
mm,
just not resonating with you. You need something that you resonate with. And if it's using your imagination and getting in there and getting it, work done, and it might mean lots, if you've had it for a while, it might mean it takes a little while to get it right. There might be other areas you need to look at. Check the back of the brain area. There might be areas there that you need to look at. You might find that you need to clear the channel between the two ears, because this one's bouncing back instead of going all the way through.
yeah,
I don't know. This is your
yeah,
intuition. Your imagination, your intuition will help you with that. And it can help you with all of them. Don't not go to the doctors, but also work on it in your way as well.
yeah. I think I'm done with the doctors and specialists for now. Tell us which website do we go to? Where can people find you?
Intuitivenature.com.au. It's an Australian business, so intuitivenature.com.au. And I'm on all the socials and everything else. You'll probably find me more at Susan Jane Life Coach. You'll find it in that side of it, or the Art of Intuition. I've got all of them happening. So, and the Art of Intuition is when I'm doing the workshops and we're doing that art
Oh, okay.
therapy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome. And of course, I will link everything below. It's really worth it. It's
yeah,
really worth it to have a look at all these different ways that we can help ourselves as
yeah.
well.
And do the free quiz. You'll have fun.
Yeah, that's right. The free one. Don't forget the free one. Free ones are good. And of course, that could motivate people also to take the next step with even their own path of, oh, if I could do that free one, then maybe I can create. Yeah. So there's always help for people. We sometimes think there's not, but there is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I am going to ask you one more question. Are you ready? All right. So if someone's feeling like, okay, so the world is in such a state now, and like every time you turn the internet on, there's all this negativity and blah, 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 blah. What's the best? Have you got any advice for someone who might feel, I don't know, maybe lonely within themselves or whatever? How can they how can they put themselves in a positive vibe considering all the crap in the world right now?
look, this comes out a lot, and it happens with a lot of people. So what we're doing, what you're actually doing is taking on other people's energy. With all that negativity happening in the world, what we do is we take it on board. We start to live it, we start to absorb it, and we're taking on all that negative energy. We have to stop doing that. Anyone taking on all that negative energy and everything else, you're not helping anybody. You're not helping yourself. You're not helping your family. You're not helping anybody. All you're doing is going further and further down into the depths. We have to stop doing that. If that means turning off the TV, not going on the internet, so be it. What I would suggest with people is to start to look at more of the meditation. And I know that can be a pain in the ass because some people just don't like sitting there, but that's what we need. We need to be able to break away. If you can do meditation properly, you can sit within a tornado, not metaphysically, not real, but you could sit within all the crap that's happening around you and still sit in peace within yourself. So it's really, really important to find that peace and to find that understanding. I know I'll have weeks, or not weeks, maybe a week or a few days where I cannot turn the TV on because I'm feeling a bit vulnerable and I don't want to take on that information. The other aspect that we can look at is we start to protect ourselves. Now, I don't know whether you've heard the term of bubbling yourself or white lighting yourself. Okay, these are two techniques that you can use to help protect yourself. You can bubble yourself. So it's like you basically imagine yourself in a bubble, right? Now the bubble, we know, like a soap bubble, is reflective. So any of that negative energy in your head, you're thinking any of that negative energy can bounce off and go away. I am protected here. I'm giving out love. I'm in this safe space. So that's a type of meditation, and you can put that acknowledgement in your head, driving down the highway. Put my car in a bubble. I want to be in a bubble. I want to be protected. So you start to protect yourself from there. Now, it's not going to protect you necessarily from physical stuff, but it will protect you from that energy, negative energy coming at you. And it will protect you from what they call the vampire energies. When people drain you. Now, you would have been in a situation where you're with somebody and then you walk away thinking, holy crap, I'm stuffed. Okay. That's because they've drained your energy, right? So bubble yourself will protect you on that. Now, one step up from a bubble, if people don't want to bubble, and there's a reason why you don't want to bubble, because as you're bouncing off energy, you're also bouncing off positive energy. We can do both, but that's okay, because there's times there when you are feeling a bit vulnerable, you do need to protect yourself from anything, and that's okay too. The other way we can do it, the other technique that we have, is you bring in the white light. Now, I don't know if you've heard of the white light technique, but I bring it in through my crown chakra, through the top of the head, and I take it all the way through it into the ground, into Mother Earth, okay? From Father Sun to Mother Earth, this white light goes all the way through me, okay? As I get better this is a type of meditation as well, but as I get better at it, I start to fill myself up with it as well. Keep it flowing, but I fill myself up until my whole body is radiating with white energy, white light. Now, we can bubble ourselves at the same time.
Yeah.
White light coming in, bubble for protection, we can do those. So there's ways of doing that. Another way that you can do, which just goes another step further forward, when I'd have trouble with a person, like there could be somebody that I was having, I just didn't like them. They were negative. Just didn't know. I had to deal with them, but didn't know, what to do with it. I used to bring the white light through and again send it right down to Mother Earth. I would fill myself up with the white light. I was full. So whatever energy I was giving out is coming from above. I'm not using my energy. I'm not draining myself. That's how you do your healings as well. You always fill yourself up when you do your healings. And then what I would do is I would look at the person and I would send rainbows of love to them.
Oh, that could be hard.
Exactly. It is hard. And you know what? Nobody knows about it. Nobody has an understanding of it. And all you're doing is you're practicing this technique of sending love through the heart chakra. I always send it out through the heart chakra. And you could do it with the white light. If you don't want to do rainbows, you can just do white light and send that to the person. And I can guarantee that person will not like it if they're negative, will not like it, and they will back away. They might arc up to start with and try and get you to stop. Don't know why they're trying to get you to stop because they don't understand what's going on, but they might attack you a little bit. But then eventually they go, I don't want to hang around with that person. They're too bright. They're too bright light. I can't drag them down to my negativity. So when we're looking at things on the TV and everything else, protect yourself. Don't take on that negative energy. Unless you can be like I was, that onlooker at a third party and not take on that emotion, don't do it. Look after yourself.
Thank you so much for that. That was very well explained. Yeah, again, like just the way that you explain stuff is like, it's not so much simplistic, but you can really absorb it, and I really felt it, and I appreciate it.
I do make it simplistic because it is simplistic. It's easy.
We do
It's
tend to complicate stuff, don't we? So
You do. It's easy, but it's hard.
yeah, maybe we can have you on again.
I'll talk more about the flowers next time. We'll go into a bit more detail. We'll get
Yeah, that'd be
you to pick a flower.
do a live presentation of that. That'd be interesting.
Yes, 100%.
I'll see if I pick yellow gold again. We'll see.
Depends on what
Actually,
your goal is. It'll depend on your goal.
So actually, just curious though. So speaking of color, when you had your NDE, I know you mentioned like a green, bright green color.
Yeah.
Like a bright. Does that color with you now resonate with you? Like, does it mean something to you when you see that color now, or is it just something that was in that?
I bring that one up because that was the closest color I could call it. So there was colors, but they weren't colors. Again, I guess the only other word I could call it, it was like the vibration of green.
Yeah, that's beyond our kind of.
It was it's I can't explain it because I don't understand it. It's like
Yeah. So yeah, colors, vibrations, they're all the same thing, really, aren't they?
They are, and they attach to our feelings and our emotions, and it's all over the place. That they all interlink all the way through. Yeah.
And your light's coming back again, by the way.
Oh, is it? Look at me go.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and yeah, I really appreciate it, and I really look forward to our next conversation because I am sure that we are going to see each other for real as well. Yeah, you never know. I might even take one of your classes, see what this is all about.
Yes.
Thanks again for coming on, and yeah, it's just been a joy.
Thank you for having me.
And I know that you're going to be on other podcasts too. So yeah, and enjoy that process too, because you've really got a strong message and you're so genuine. It's very hard to find that. Thanks again, and have a lovely day.
Thank you. All the best.
Well, thanks to everyone that's been watching as well. And please check out Susan's links down below because, you know, there is so much value there and really need to get into this before your mind gets a bit too much for you. All right. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.